pouring dreams with love, but love. Susie's spark shines from above. Amy's colors twist and play. Sally keeps the tracks in sway. Tony waves from Georgie's side. This train's
Hi, I'm Tony and it's Saturday and we are back with the Friendship Express in collaboration with Georgies Gorgeous Gifts and loads of other fantastic artists. So take a look at the playlist once you've watched this video. It will be linked at the end and also in the description below. So every month there is a theme and this month's theme is goth. So I was quite ahead of this one because I actually bought a new mould specifically for this, and we're going to be using Aquacast to fill the mould with. But we're also going to be doing a second casting using Evochem's metal coating cast with it to see if that'll work. So same project, two completely different styles. This mould was really up my street because it's a vampire goth mould. So for this I'm using Evochem's Aquacast Turbo. Now I absolutely love the Turbo because it sets a lot harder and it's a lot quicker. So for those of you that don't know what Aquacast is, it's an eco-casting compound that's very similar to plaster and sets within 15 minutes. And all you need to do is activate the powder by using normal tap water. I've been using this long enough just to be able to eye it, but for the purposes of the video I did in fact weigh it accurately. So I've mixed up about 250 grams of powder and then added the water to it and then give that a good mix until it's the same sort of thickness and consistency as a thick pancake mix. And this is the mould that we're going to be filling. I didn't realise at the time, but she has got little vampire teeth. I thought it was just a goth woman with a mask. So I'm just filling this all the way to the top. Now the great thing with Aquacast is that you can pour it fairly deep. And I've poured some deep moulds with this and I've not had one that hasn't cured yet. So I haven't quite pushed it to its limits. So I'm about 1/2 centimetre off the top. Absolutely gutted. So I'm just giving this a bit of a squidge and a bit of a squeeze in all the grooves and the gaps, her nose, her eyes, her hair, and you can see as I'm banging this, the amount of Aquacast that's in there is being reduced. I'm trying to scrape out the entirety of the pot, just so that I haven't got to mix up anymore. And then I give it one last squeeze and tap and bang, just so that all the air bubbles are released and come to the top. Now with Aquacast or any kind of eco compound, the rougher you are the better, so I give it a bit of a jiggle, bit of a tap on the sides and did this until I couldn't see any bubbles coming to the surface. As you can see, I'm just popping them with my fingers because this stuff is non-toxic, and that's why I got into eco compounds initially. It was because I was pregnant and couldn't do resin. It was driving me insane. I'm just giving it a bit of a massage. Because I haven't used this mould before, not even with resin, I'm really unsure about where the bubbles could potentially gather. And as you can see, I do this for quite some time. Now this is starting to set a little bit, so I do then leave it alone. And then I left it to fully cure. Now this was about 20 minutes after, and you see the hesitation. This was such a difficult mould to demould. Now whether it's going to be the same in resin, because I presume I can just pop some alcohol or soapy water in there to get it out. But honestly, it was an absolute nightmare, and you can see the hesitation here. I don't want her nose to come off, so I think, now, do you know what, I'm going to put it down and I'm going to leave it for a good couple of hours to make sure that it's completely solid and that there's no sort of soft bits and take the risk. And I do this more than once, trust me. I'm just sort of feeling round and yeah, decide against it. So this is again a good couple of hours later. And I do exactly the same thing. I try to get it off the top and then start panicking about the nose because the nose is right underneath this base. And honestly, trying to demould this when I eventually did, it was like wrestling with an alligator, and I had left it about 24 hours by the time I demoulded it because, yeah, I was just petrified of a nose coming off. And then I thought to myself, maybe this is just one of them moulds that you just can't use Aquacast in. But nonetheless, like I say, I kept it for 24 hours and then just went for it. I thought it's got to come out somehow. And I was absolutely over the moon when I pulled it out, and it didn't damage it in any way, shape or form. There are a few bubbles underneath her chin and in her, I think there's one in her ear, But yeah, I absolutely love this and it's so smooth. So now it's time to decorate it. Now for this, I'm using some acrylic paints, some iridescent paint from Artfly in purple, and I'm mixing that up with just some normal purple acrylic paint. Now I did have to give this a good few coats, and you'll see even then it left like line strokes because it was still quite thin. So I do end up using a different kind of paint later on. But I thought the purple contrast against the black hair would look absolutely stunning, and it's got those goth vibe colours. So I'm just mixing the two paints together to try and get the colour that I want, and I do in fact add a lot more iridescent purple just to get that darker iridescent look. And then I went on the hunt for a paintbrush, and this is what I found, my old nail kit with all my little brushes and detailing brushes. So I thought that is absolutely perfect for this project. So I'm just choosing which brush to use, and there are some really tiny brushes in this pack. Yet another hobby that I tried and got bored with very quickly. ADHD brain strikes again. But you'll be surprised how much equipment have come from these crafts that I can transfer over to my resin art, so there's a bonus, I suppose. It's the one hobby that I've stuck to for several years. And I think it's because it's so versatile. There are so many things that you can do with resin, and the project doesn't turn out the same twice, ever. Even if you're doing the same coaster, you never get the same results. Anyway, I digress again. So I'm just painting all the inside of this cup in the purple and all the mask. And you can see, this is what I was on about with the streakiness. I wasn't quite happy with the lines. But then I went to paint the hair, and I'm using some black acrylic paint for that. Now I honestly thought that this was going to get everywhere, but I didn't actually do a bad job, although I didn't end up using this cup in the end anyway. So I decided to make another one with some polyurethane because I want to use the metal casting by Evoking. Now this was where my mistake was, because I read it as Hydroflow was from Evoking was a polyurethane, not an eco compound. It turns out it is an eco compound. So that's the reason why I decided to switch my projects around. So this is the Let's Resin polyurethane, and this is another plastic type of compound that feels a lot like plastic rather than the ceramic of the EcoPore. But this stuff cures even quicker than the Aquacast Turbo. So I'm literally stirring it for 30 seconds and you see it go clear after measuring equal amounts of part A or part B. This can be done by either weight or by volume, and then I'm just pouring it into the mould. Now again, I'm unsure of the depths that you can go to with this, but I've never had any problems with it curing, and I have pushed it a little bit. So did I have to make some more up because I didn't quite reach the top? But yeah, I just topped it all the way up and then left it to fully cure. Now there's two ways to use this metal casting compound from Evoking. You can either put it in the moulds or you can put it on a piece. So that's my intention to do both. So this is a 3-to-1 powder versus the acrylic liquid that comes with it. And I'm just measuring up 30 grams only because I couldn't do the maths on anything else. I'm doing 30 grams and then 10 grams of the liquid. I then give that a good mix for about 2 or 3 minutes. And at this point, it's very much the same consistency of Aquacast. And then I pop it onto the mould. For this, I'm using just a bigger paintbrush. I had just washed it, so I don't know whether the water was reacting with it because it left patches in the mould. So a tip there is to make sure that your brush is completely and utterly dry before you attempt to pop this onto the mould. But other than that, it went on relatively easy. I did in fact pop quite a thick coat on there because I was unsure of how deep you needed it to be in order for it to work. But because this is going to be over polyurethane, I think that's why this one didn't particularly work out quite as well. So after trying to make sure that the whole tray was covered, I then left it to cure for about an hour. In the meantime, the polyurethane copy of the jar, cup, vase, I don't really know what it is, pen holder maybe? Anyway, As you can see, I was being a little less cautious with this one, but it was still really, really difficult to demould. I mean, this is even sped up, and yeah, I really, really struggled with it. It's not the easiest mould in the world to demould at all, even though the silicone is quite flexible and quite soft. Yeah, it was like wrestling an alligator, to say the least. So eventually, once I'd managed to demould it, it was looking quite good. The bubbles that were in the previous one were non-existent. And the more I look at this mould, the more I absolutely love it. Now, this has got a more white colour to it than the previous one. But we're going to be coating it with the metal casting. Unfortunately, I deleted the video. But all I did was coat it exactly like we did the tray. Now back to the tray, we're filling that up with polyurethane and then leaving this to cure. Now I have left this on hyperspeed for you because the process to watch is quite fascinating. I love it, but it is sped up for you. But it literally turns white before your very eyes. This is over a period of about 12 minutes and there it goes, pure white. So this was ready to demould in under 15 minutes. But you can see here that the metal casting has come off the polyurethane, and I think it's probably because it's not meant for polyurethane. But regardless, I thought, let's give it a go and see if it'll work. Now you're supposed to use wire wool to brush this up to turn it from this dull grey into like a metal coating, or a metal look, should I say. But I didn't have any, so the next best thing was some tin foil. So I grabbed some foil and scrunched some up and then just went to town, literally going all the way around it, making sure that I've got all across the top. And you can see it's starting to have like a shine to it. It gives that metal effect. And it was actually working on this one, but like you can see, it's all chipped and yeah, so I didn't like this one. So I decided to change my mind and use the original one to coat and the polyurethane one to paint and have that as the main piece. But this is what it looks like after about 5 minutes of brushing with the foil. So as I said, I did lose the footage of coating it, but it was exactly the same process as the tray. I did put a little bit too much on, I think that was the issue. And then I painted the polyurethane one, as you can see on the side there, in the purple and the black. So now I'm just grabbing my foil and doing exactly the same thing as we did with the tray. And it really does come up nice. I did lose some of the detail, as I said, because I think I put a bit too much on. But yeah, I need to use a thinner paintbrush and definitely a thinner coating. But I'm absolutely loving this stuff. So 2 projects, 2 completely different ways. Which one's your favourite? Let me know in the comments. I know this is now Monday and this is supposed to be for the Friendship Express on Saturday. But yeah, life gets in the way sometimes, so I do apologise for that one. But this is what it's looking like. I really, really like these 2 pieces. So it's time to finish off this one. Now, when I painted this one, I used the Lumiere dimensional metallic paint and adhesive from Jacquard. Now, funny story behind this one is I bought these on the basis that they were alcohol inks, not paints, and when they turned up, I'd bought 12 tubs of dimensional metallic paint, all different colours. Yeah, that's not reading the description properly because they were like £1.50 each, and I thought, oh, what a bargain. Yeah, they were a bargain because they were paints, not inks. So just to finish this one off, I've got a metallic pen and I'm just going over all the detail on a mask. Now I did consider putting more detail in, but I really don't think she needs it. I think this is just enough detail to make it look lovely. And just going over all the top of this will only just get the detailed pieces because of the difference in the height. I then got my white pen and then just drew the little teeth, vampire teeth, onto the front of this piece, just to finish it off. So only a short one today, so all that's left is for me to leave you with some glamour photos. I've been Tony from Georgie's Gorgeous Gifts. Stay safe, Happy crafting and bye for now.
Dina's pouring dreams with love, but love. Susie's spark shines from above. Amy's colors twist and play. Sally keeps the tracks in